Hello, everyone. N here, pronouns they, them, head of community at Livepeer. And this is our weekly Monday Watercooler, where we talk about all things Livepeer. So, some announcements on my end. The network is holding strong around 15,000 in weekly fees. Additionally, we have reached above that 50% participation, currently at 50.4% participation in the network, and now that enters us into a deflationary environment again. So, thank you to the orchestrators and delegators for staying persistent on that and getting us back above that 50% mark. Hopefully, we can stay there for an extended period of time, but of course, we shall see how that goes. Um, we also have some Daydream announcements. As people know, I have been most of my time has been running the Daydream server, so that community is now over 1.5k people strong. And Daydream just launched a playground, which is a V2 version of the first product, to a lot of strong signal. A lot of people commented how it was a big improvement, how they're very excited. And we also launched the Daydream API, which enables folks to use Stream Diffusion to build into their product. So those are two super exciting things. The team worked really, really hard on it. So a big hats off to everyone. I see a number of people from the Daydream, from who are working on Daydream here. So, hat tip to Hunter, Ria, and Co here, who have been working tirelessly on making that happen. So again, great job on the Daydream side. Real-time video AI is definitely growing. That is it for the announcements. Doug will go a bit more into Daydream when we get there. But the first topic we have at hand is the Transformation SPE, which of course was delivered by Livepeer Foundation. So I want to invite Rich to kind of start that conversation off, because I know you've already had a conversation earlier today and have already addressed a lot of the questions that have been asked. But I just want to give you the stage now to further talk about what you've been learning, what you've been hearing, and what would be helpful to hear in this call.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anne. Another quick mic check. Is that better with the echo?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, first of all, a big thank you to everyone who joined earlier. I probably shouldn't have been on the Watercooler chat, so sorry for impinging there, but it was a really great discussion, and thanks
fine.
everyone who joined before. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rich, and I lead growth and strategy at the foundation and is one of the three core committee members behind it. For those of you who don't know, the foundation launched a couple of months ago. We're still getting officially incorporated last month, and we're still getting a lot in place over at the foundation. But we were set up as this vehicle for ecosystem participation. So how do we try and get as many ecosystem participants, community members involved in setting the vision, the strategy for the Livepeer project, involved in ecosystem growth and core network development. And the LF is an independent entity, and it's really there to try and steward the project as best as possible, and really trying to work with all different entities like Livepeer Inc., all the amazing applications, streamplays, frameworks, the agent SPE, and of course, the other SPEs, cloud, and event marketing, all the other SPs that have existed. Now, the first initiative of the foundation was to try and set up a community-driven strategy setting process, working with advisory boards. These are advisory boards. They were selected from, the majority were selected from within the community, with a couple of external experts just to provide an alternative perspective. And we went through the process of trying to create a collective strategy, a vision for the Livepeer project. And we had an amazing 6 weeks. A lot of ideas came to the surface. We published the tactical recommendations. And then last 2 weeks ago now, the foundation published the work streams, which is a way of looking at how to map the problem space. And then last week, as many of you have seen, we launched the Transformation SPE, which was meant to be the special purpose entity that really takes on funding from the on-chain treasury and then distributes it to various core contributors, new and existing, to try and find fresh talent, as well as coordinating the amazing community that we have through bounties, through RFPs, through short-term contracts. We were really trying to take on this tranche of funding through the Transformation SPE and distribute it through the different work streams out to the end users, which is the community. For those of you who don't know, the foundation was also seeded with an investment, and the foundation node is currently being set up, and it's very similar to what the grants node was previously. It's not live yet, but as soon as it will be, obviously, everything will be transparent and on-chain. I wanted to give that preamble just to like set the scene, make sure we come to terms. But then I really wanted to sort of hand it over. I know there's been a huge amount of excitement through the advisory board process, and there's been some great questions, concerns that have been raised on the pre-proposal. We've listened to a lot of it already, and we are thinking of how to iterate on that pre-proposal. But I really wanted to use the Watercooler as a way of any more questions that have not been in the pre-proposal or that you feel like haven't been answered, to use this as an open space to ask questions and hopefully get them answered by us in the coming hour or so. Hopefully less than an hour. I don't want to be on stage for that long. So yeah, just wanted to open it up, and thanks, Anne, for hosting.
Of course, as always. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, comments, feel free to come up on stage, drop it in chat. Yeah, take it away. Whoever wants to go first.
Rich, what's like the loudest, most strongest signal feedback you've received so far, and do you have any initial thoughts on how you might adapt based on that?
Great question. Yeah, I think a couple of folks, I know that you highlighted it, Vera has highlighted the broad range, the fact that we are trying to do a lot and we're trying to start a lot all at once. There was also feedback from PON around, could this be multiple proposals? There was feedback around how much we're trying to do at once, which was really a core feedback that we've taken on board, and we are going to look at how we can iterate on, particularly about potentially reducing the scope or trying to ensure that work streams, this mission critical work that has been raised by advisory boards, get done, but that it doesn't have to just be through the Transformation SPE. There can be other SPEs that appear through it. So yeah, that's the primary feedback that we got. And there was also some feedback around budgets. So for instance, the budget for a Livepeer rebrand might be a bit high. I know that a couple of folks picked up on that. So yeah, this is all great feedback that we can integrate into a final proposal.
Awesome.
Can I take over the mic? I don't know if
Yeah,
someone has
Pablo, go ahead.
Great. Hello, everyone. Yeah, just to address the elephant in the room, since I don't know, apparently no one is doing it. There has been, I started quite a, to me at least, interesting discussion in the general chat about not only the SPE, which I think is quite abusive in terms of how much LPT is being requested, but I think that was already highlighted by many community members, but also as to why even the SPE exists. Why is it managed by the team that's in the foundation? I mean, we have many protocols. I've worked for many protocols in the Ethereum space. Many of these protocols have foundations, right? And these foundations are run in a very clear way, right? They'll have core teams that in many cases have been chosen by the community. They all have a very transparent treasury management system, and they all have a very clear goal, right, that they try to achieve. So maybe I think people are interested to get into this discussion. At least I am, as to why the foundation exists, right? And all these questions I've been asking in general chat and also in the SPE forum.
Awesome. Thank you, Pablo.
Aside from
And
aside from
hi,
the SPE.
hi, Pablo. Thanks for the question. I mean, the Livepeer Foundation, we do look at trying to be Ethereum aligned. So I'll answer the question with another question: is why does the Ethereum Foundation exist as an example?
And I'm not trying to say that the Livepeer Foundation should be Ethereum aligned. I'm just saying that there's many protocols already with foundations associated with them that follow clear guidelines, and they operate in a very transparent and in some cases decentralized way. And I'm just wondering, I mean, the first question is, why does the foundation even exist? And the second question is, why is the foundation right now extremely opaque?
Okay, to answer the first question, the foundation was set up actually in response to where we are as an ecosystem. I think we're at an amazing position where we have a great core technology. We have a token that is live and that has providing incentives across the board. We have great talent within the ecosystem across different SPEs that are all trying to build a bigger vision for Livepeer. However, we have lacked a bit of strategic direction and long-term thinking for the Livepeer project as a whole. This is something that I think I heard time and time again throughout my time at Livepeer. And this is something that the foundation has been set up to try and get to some sort of alignment, and to do that in a way that involves the community through the advisory boards, through the different processes that we've set up over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And that's really the core of the Livepeer Foundation. And then it's to think about, okay, once we've set the strategy, then how do we grow that ecosystem, attracting top talent? And how do we steward the core contributors to ensure that everyone is rowing in the same direction, while also acknowledging that there should be other SPEs, other entities within the ecosystem that are independent and that are ultimately, take the agent SPE as an example, DeFi and Titan's awesome work. This is something that wouldn't have happened unless it was funded by the initiatives of the community. But we still want, obviously, the agent SPE to exist, but we do believe there should be a core Livepeer strategy, if that makes sense. So that's answering the first question around why does the foundation exist.
Maybe I can
When it comes,
we can ask.
Just a quick note. Sorry, guys.
Yes.
Let's try not to do crosstalk. What that means is if Rich is still talking, let's try not to interject. Let Rich finish, and then if you want to respond, Pablo, you can. But just
Yes,
having
but
not
like
having
note on that, like if you say a 5-minute sentence, there's like you are talking about a lot of interesting things. It might be good to
I'm
leave
just
space
saying,
for other
just
people
for
to
just for
talk.
the ability to like be able to hear everyone and let everyone be able to finish what they're saying. Just wait until Rich finishes, and then we can move on. Just wanted to it makes it easier for the conversation. Rich, were you finished?
no, I was going to answer the second question just before, just so I don't lose it, because it's been a question that's come up a couple of times from you, Pablo. So around transparent treasury management, from the perspective of the Livepeer Foundation, there is one obvious thing. We are a very new organization that are still setting up a lot of the core financial operations moving forward, right? There's this case, but there's the bigger case, which is also that we want to be setting up transparent budgeting for the future, but asking questions about individual compensation or something very granular breaks the privacy that we want to have. However, when we think of like budgeting, again, basing on the Ethereum Foundation, and I can share some overviews of how we're going to try and do it for the future to give that transparency. We do believe that there should be transparency on how budget is allocated at a level that respects privacy of individuals as well.
I mean, you do realize that most protocols publish salaries for all foundation members. There's no, I mean, so I don't know where to start, but Dob is
maybe-
mentioning
Rich,
that the
Rich,
foundation,
sorry,
please,
let Paul
please
finish.
follow N's advice. Dob is mentioning that the foundation is here to set an example, no, to show the community how things should be done and to represent the community. And the first thing you are doing is handpicking some people that are not even here right now in the call, I think, or I don't know if they are, which I think they're great people, honestly, great backgrounds, but have nothing to do with the Livepeer ecosystem at all. And so these people are now supposed to steward all of us that have been here for years, building, right, and grinding along Livepeer's journey. And they are now earning an undisclosed amount that's being funded by Livepeer Inc. So I mean, you can see how if you wanna do like things right, and you wanna represent the ecosystem and you wanna steward us into success, from day one, you have to lead by example and set up a structure that's, in my opinion, completely transparent, not only in treasury but also in governance and how decisions are made. In my opinion, it's not about privacy. If you decide to build a foundation, you know how foundations are. Again, we don't have to like rediscover and learn how to set up a foundation. You can look at Uniswap Foundation. Every quarter, they publish how much they've paid the people that are part of the foundation. It's very simple. So I don't understand how this hasn't been done from the beginning. And that being said, then going back to your first question, you see how like a lot of interesting things have been said. So it's
just
there's also people in the chat saying cool things. But and then so for the first question, you started by saying that we are in a great place, and I don't exactly understand how you can say that. I mean, the Livepeer protocol and the Livepeer ecosystem is not in a great place at all. And it's not only about token price or like token economics. I don't really care about this. Just if you look at the network, in the last 5 years, we haven't been able to have a successful product create significant volume for orchestrators. And that's the North Star metric of this ecosystem, right? So for starters, I wouldn't say that we're in a great place. We are in a critical place. We've been building as a community for many years. And right now, we are pivoting the whole strategy into AI, right? Mostly Daydream is spearheading this effort. And we don't know if we're going to succeed or not. I really hope we do. And I think Daydream and the Daydream team are doing a great job, and I support them. But right now we're in a critical stage, and we have to tread carefully where we go. And I think if I look at your arguments, you are basically saying, okay, we are in a critical place. Let's make the foundation so we can steward the ecosystem into eventually growing orchestrator volume, but orchestrator demand. Sorry. But looking at the foundation structure and who is managing it, honestly, I don't see how or why this team in the foundation would achieve any kind of success at changing the direction that we're going in, honestly. And I don't see how Livepeer Inc. on whoever seeded the foundation, plus giving 800K to the foundation is gonna change that. But maybe you can convince me of otherwise.
No, all I can say to that is thank you, and I won't put you as a reference on my CV. Um, I think let me answer the question because we can go into detail on how foundation members are funded. So there's that 800K figure that we're asking for here is going to be rooted back to the community, right? The whole point of that is that the foundation will not receive any additional credits here. And I think this was also a comment that came up in the pre-proposal. This is not about consulting for the foundation. This is about redistributing that funding back to the community, right? Now, are we going to steward how those projects are done through work streams? Yes. Are we going to have higher accountability standards? Well, yes, we're going to try very hard. Are we going to try and set a good example of what an SPE can be? Yes. That's what the original purpose of an SPE is. And to speak briefly around how the Livepeer Foundation team is going to be the core contributing team. It's going to be roughly between 5 to 10 people that are paid by the income which we will receive on the staking from the node that we will run. Okay, so just to clear up that, we will effectively be an entity which runs our own node infrastructure, and we will be self-sufficient, and we're going to try and be a long-term sustainable entity. Now, how this foundation is run is a great question, and this is something that Ben has been thinking. And let's be clear. You can say, who is this British bloke who has come into the Livepeer ecosystem 18 months ago and has been working with the ecosystem? And you definitely can't say that about Rick.
Or
Wait,
any.
Sorry,
Pablo,
you're interrupting, Pablo.
Pablo,
Sorry, Pablo, you're interrupting.
Well,
Yes.
okay, just a pause. I know it's easy to want to jump in, but I also crosstalk is not what I meant. Interjection. I know this is like a hot conversation, but it's really important that we give Rich and Pablo, you as well, the space to speak your mind. So I know it might be tempting to jump in, but again, please, like, I'll stop the conversation if we do it, so we can reset. Rich wasn't finished speaking, so Rich, finish up what you're saying, and if Pablo, you have a response, feel free. And also, I have something I want to drop into, so maybe after you, Pablo, I can pipe up as well.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks, Em. Yeah, like I said, Rick has been an absolute tireless warrior for Livepeer over the last years. The amount that he's done from an AI contribution perspective is mammoth. And I think he very much warrants a place on this foundation. The one that might be called into question is Ben. Who has been brought into this ecosystem separately. But when you look at Ben's history of doing 13 years at EY, being in charge of multi-million, tens of millions budget, you look at his experience at TikTok, you look at his experience at Aragon in the not so easy years, his experience at Pocket, I think he is very, very qualified to be on this foundation, as also I'm sure members of the Markets Advisory Board will tell you. Don't let his appearance mistake you there. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy to be targeted in this. But really, the foundation team is rock solid, and we have very high standards with who we're going to work with on the core contributor side.
Great. It's not really an attack on you or your persona. I'm just saying, again, something you haven't addressed. Livepeer, I think, it's in a pretty critical state right now. No one has been able to produce or create extensive value for the network. And I think the foundation, even though, yeah, great guys and great backgrounds, I don't see how based on the current percentage strategy, are going to create value moving forward. But that is a debate we can have forever. And I think something that's clear, in my opinion, is the community has a lot of questions. You see in the chat, there's like a pretty extensive discussion as to if we need a foundation or not. and what the foundation role should be, how they should fund it. And I think, like I said in the chat, before this SPE is even proposed, there has to be a lot of, like, in my opinion, this is all my opinion, a lot of auditing done in both governance and treasury management, but also a pretty big discussion as to why we need the foundation, if we need it, and how it should exist. Because right now, in my opinion, it was imposed by or created unilaterally by Livepeer Inc. or whoever, and yeah, like a part of the community, but not the whole community. And so I would propose that we create a governance framework. It can be a simple forum where we discuss these topics in depth to really evaluate if we need this and how it should be constructed and what the goals are, instead of just moving forward with some ideas that Livepeer Inc. and Livepeer Foundation have talked in private chat rooms, right? So yeah, that's all I'm trying to get at.
Thank you. So I know, Doug, I think you're a good person to chime in here. I just wanted to mention what I'm hearing, what I kind of observed from a lot of the. I know I didn't jump in with my perspective, but from what I observed, a lot of the comments, it was a lot about like transparency, and kind of people want to understand how this process would work, right? How foundation is going to, make decisions, and what I'm hearing now from you, Pablo, is like, what is the origin of how foundation came to be. So yeah, I want to hand it to Doug. I know that you had mentioned you could chime in here to kind of explain some of that history.
Yeah, sure. I think all the discussion around transparency and governance mechanisms is warranted. I also looking at the, you know, success and current state of the project and questioning it and questioning the project strategy is also warranted. It would be great if we could separate those, have those discussions independently from, let's say, providing valuable feedback on an SPE proposal. Because I think the feedback is being listened to. I think that both can be done based on what the community wants and what they see is useful or is not useful. But it's very difficult to make any progress moving forward if every topic that's being discussed evolves into a holistic retro on the whole history of the Livepeer project, because unless you're just proposing a brand new project of Livepeer 3.0 and building everything from scratch, including the protocol, the incentives, the governance mechanisms, et cetera, and going to do all that work, it's hard to just put one foot in front of the other and make progress. um, I so something related to the history I wanted to just clarify for everyone is, I think Livepeer has great initial primitives for decentralized community controlled governance, decentralized community controlled capital allocation and incentives that really reward um, solid contribution and those who are looking to do the work. If you look at something like the grants program initially, it's not some magical thing that was, specially built into the protocol or created via the power of one entity. It was literally just a program that some people working on the project said, we could use a grants program in order to provide public goods funding to the ecosystem. We're going to run a node and set a 50% reward cut, and anyone who stakes towards it will be sharing some of the rewards to fund a grants program. And over time, that built up a treasury and has been, managed by an evolving team of people from Inc. And some things were ineffective and some things were effective, including actually recognizing needs in the ecosystem and dishing out capital for contracts or hiring in order to accomplish those needs for public goods, be it across development, marketing, et cetera. The on-chain treasury is also this open protocol community governed mechanism that allows anyone in a non-gate kept way to make a proposal and convince the community and access funding. And it actually doesn't need the foundation's approval. It doesn't need GovWorks approval. It doesn't need Livepeer Inc.'s approval. Anyone can start a program via the foundation. We've seen many great programs started that attempt to generate demand or do marketing, and they all operate independently. And of course, transparency is appreciated, and it's a best practice. And the community may not fund things that aren't transparent. That's up to the community. But there's nothing, you know, special that anyone has permission to do or not do from any company or entity when it comes to this great on-chain primitive. And so, if you look at someone has to do the work, right? And someone has to focus on the ecosystem. And Livepeer Inc. has certainly evolved to take its best attempts at generating demand for the network and building the teams that build the products and go to market to do that. And I welcome all criticism. We certainly haven't found total product market fit yet that generates incredible amounts of revenue. But hey, guys, we're trying. Like, we're iterating. We're on to the next attempt. We're all in on real-time AI and making great progress. I can give a Daydream update there. But because of that focus, it's hard to do that and also serve the needs of the 10 existing SPEs and all the great contributors that want to contribute to the project across many different demand gen shots on goal and product building initiatives and protocol evolution and serving the orchestrators. And so the grants program alone, internal within Inc., wasn't enough. And like I said, someone needs to do the work. And operator like Rich, who had been here 18 months and cared deeply about the ecosystem, said, "Oh, I'm happy to evolve this program into a new program, a new entity. Let's call it the foundation." And it doesn't have any special power in the protocol beyond any other SP or any other entity that someone says to build around Livepeer. And it's making a proposal to the Treasury, just like anyone can do. But I appreciate that leadership and that action and the community-oriented process to include everyone in the recommendations and the transparency and making a pre-proposal, getting the feedback, evolving it to fund and recruit people in to run these initiatives. So I don't know. I hope that background is a little bit of a rant, but I hope that background is useful in terms of what the primitives are, why the foundation exists, how it's on the same playing field as everyone else. But most importantly, I just appreciate everyone striving to make Livepeer work and bringing these opinions and perspectives and trying to do the work to push this thing forward.
Thank you, Doug. Yeah, one note for me, I was running grants for a long while, and I think one of my perspectives has been like, Inc. has a lot on its plate, and there needs to be more collaboration and cohesion around the strategic mission outside of just Inc. And I think Foundation is a strong vehicle for getting that done. Though I want to say that all the questions people are asking are valid. So it's important that as the community, right, you're the ultimate arbiters of the on-chain treasury, that you ask all the questions you need to ask and get the clarity you need to have in order to vote in good confidence. So I want to encourage everybody to ask questions. I think a lot of great questions being answered in chat. So thank you for responding in there. And I think, Doug, you gave some good insight on terms of from the Inc. side, right? Inc. is deeply focused on Daydream and real-time video AI, and there are still needs in the community that we all need support with. And that I think is why getting a structure around this is really important, because there are things that I've wanted to see as well that haven't been able to be done just because there's been so much else that needs to be done. So with more support, I think can unlock more success for us, and unlock more collaboration. And when Rich predates me, but when I started and Rich took on the initiative to kind of foster more SP development, and that was me, Rich, Carlota, Noma, and others. We all helped generate the SPs that we have today, and that engaged the on-chain treasury in a significant way. So I want to remind people of where we've been and where we are now, and how much of a step forward we've taken as an ecosystem. I think it's easy to be like, well, why aren't we at this level? Things do take time, right? And I respect the urgency and I respect the criticism, because I think it's all valid. And how do we mobilize that energy into pushing the network forward and finding that PMF and finding those fees and finding those customers, And again, like, I think there's good conversation in general about how, their ball has been dropped in different ways, and we should all own that, and figure out, like, how do we get our documentation to be better, how do we get the user experience to be better, the developer experience to be better, right, the delegator experience to be better, right? That was, when I did the delegator workshop, that was unveiled through Winner, who I think is in the audience, and he created a delegator app experience that allows people to onboard with fiat. So there is a ton of things that are in progress, and I don't want us to lose sight of that. And I also don't want us to shirk away from the valid feedback that we're having now. This is part of this Web3 experience. This is part of decentralization. Like, it's this, right? It's all of us coming together and figuring out how do we coordinate, collaborate, and find PMF together. And I think that fundamentally this is what a lot of Web3 misses. And I think we're actually doing the hard work now. And I think Rich putting it forward is part of doing that hard work too. So yeah, that's my note.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, awesome I think it's good to have context as well, just about, there's a lot of history here, so that's great to pin down. There's a couple more questions. I don't know in the chat, particularly one from John, but there are some others. Can I answer the questions in the chat? Is that all right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Because John, you put forward a great question here. If Foundation is funded by Treasury like other SPs, there should be transparency on chain for salaries. I've answered that part of the question below in the chat. I do have questions though about how funding will be distributed to SPs. The current Treasury process allocates funds to specific SPs via community Treasury vote. Would this change how proposals are submitted to the Treasury? Now, John, keep me honest there, and please do come up if I get the question wrong. What we're trying to do with the foundation is introduce new funding mechanisms, similar to what, as grants was a funding mechanism in the past, and hopefully we introduce it again in the future. But for instance, it's quite difficult to do RFPs with the on-chain Treasury as it currently stands, right? This is something that we want to first do with the Transformation SP and the Foundation, but then sort of open it up to any SP that wants to do an RFP, request for proposal. Why is it hard to do? Because ultimately you need to put out a problem that you have, you need to scope the problem and get requests in. For instance, around, let's take an example. If we were to do a liquidity SPE in the future, or look at that, how would we be able to have different people proposing that they could run the group, or that they could lead the initiative? At the minute, we can't do that, right? So we're looking at having new funding mechanisms orchestrated by the on-chain Treasury. Orchestrated by the Livepeer Foundation. However, how would this affect SPEs? Well, we very much see the Transformation SPE as being one way of getting funding through these bounties, through these RFPs. But obviously, the on-chain Treasury would still exist, and we fully want to make sure that DeFi and Titan or come back for the agent SPE, and frameworks come back for the frameworks SPE, Marco comes back for the frameworks SPE, etc., etc. So we would just be opening up new funding mechanisms for the ecosystem as grants previously did. I hope that answers your question, and I didn't get it totally wrong. Let me know if it didn't.
A quick question, clarifying question, Rich. Something I'm seeing, is there a process determined yet that is like, how the RFPs will be decided? Like, if there's multiple people submitted for the same one, what that looks like? Do you have the process outlined yet, or is that still in progress?
Awesome, great question. And that reminds me of a question that Brad, I don't know whether he's on the call, he is, asked earlier, which is one of the fears about how decisions get made for RFPs, right? So let's say, we go through a small rebrand or whatever it will be. I know that was a pushback topic, so I say it lightly. But if we were to have a small rebrand and we were to work with different agencies that could do it, how how is that agency selected as an example? Or if we were to do something with a protocol team, how would that process be selected? We are still working on that, and we want to publish something. Ben's been writing this article for a long time, but obviously we've been distracted by trying to get this proposal over the line. This is key though, and I think Brad was saying, how do we ensure that the community stays involved at this process, and it doesn't, as Pablo has said, become opaque, because that's the last thing that we want. So if we have an RFP process, we want it to be very much in the public eye, and we want there to be some sort of signal to the from the community as well. How that exact process looks like, we still need to decide, but we do want transparency and signal from the community, if that makes sense. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
So I mean, just to clarify, my ask here again is to create some kind of mechanism where we can reevaluate as a community if the foundation exists. I am assuming within the lines that that's not going to happen. The foundation will still exist, and basically today's discussion was just a bump on the road.
Sorry, was that a question? Or did I miss it?
Yeah, I'm asking Rich if
the foundation, like it didn't get created because the community magically voted or bless it to existence, right? It's just a entity that was formed using resources in order to do its best to make progress at growing and stewarding the ecosystem. Just like you can't stop something else from existing if it shows up and begins to work on Livepeer on this open, decentralized, permissionless protocol, right? Like
so if we
all
decide
the
to form
entities and actors in this ecosystem push forward using their own resources to help the project, right?
Right. So if we decide to form a Livepeer DAO, are you going to fund it with an undisclosed amount of LPT, or how does it going to work? Because the foundation has been seeded by someone, we don't know who, with an undisclosed amount.
So anyone could see a thing you call the the video builders DAO or something, right? And that would
That's just
exist.
extremely intellectually
Wait,
dishonest.
give me
Extremely, and I'm not
Pablo,
gonna
just let Doug finish, and then you can jump back in.
see, but I can let that finish. Yes, we can build I'm gonna build a video builders DAO. Let's do it. You guys are not being clear. You can just say it. Like you form a Livepeer foundation.
Pablo,
This
could you
foundation
clarify
was
what the question is you're trying to ask? Like, what is not clear to you?
I'm following him.
Oh, okay.
yes.
It's fine. You can talk.
Thanks. You can just be clear about it. The foundation was seeded by Livepeer Inc. to steward the ecosystem. I don't think this is correct. This is the right way to do it. We have Aave. It's a DAO, and it works. It's one of the largest protocols, or if not the largest protocol, in the Ethereum ecosystem. Arbitrum, also stewarded by a DAO. DAOs are highly successful. They involve all the community, and there's many ways to manage treasury and to manage transparency and governance. We don't need a unilateral foundation that's been funded by the core protocol, the core company that runs this protocol, to steward the community. In my opinion, if we're going to have a foundation that sets some long-term goals and studies where we should go, right, as a project, I think it's a great idea. But the structure of this foundation should definitely be something that looks like a DAO, in my opinion. And
But Livepeer has that. We have an on-chain treasury, which is completely run by the protocol with no entity and community governments and mechanisms built in, right?
Then I'm wrong. Thanks.
Like I'm saying, imagine the Livepeer Foundation is called something else, right? Imagine it's called like
But
Video
it's not. You
Builders.
literally called it Livepeer Foundation, and you funded it. it's not called something else. It's called Livepeer Foundation, and it has in its manifesto, it says what it says. So we can imagine anything. I mean, but again, I think from my side, there's nothing more to discuss.
Can I come in here? Do you mind, Doug?
Go for it.
Yeah, I think there's something that you raise. Let's. I wouldn't question why it's been formed, because it has been formed. I think the better question is to ask how the foundation can remain accountable to the community over time. That is the key question, and that is a key question that from day one I have sat down with Ben, and actually before Ben joined, sat down with Doug and Sarah before, and thought about these discussions, because it is key that this isn't just there's a big danger with foundations that they are heavily capitalized and they ultimately have no one to answer to. We do not want to be that entity, right? We want to have accountability to the community, and this is specifically in the short run via this proposal and pre-proposal. It's a way of everyone on this call, anyone who owns LPT, to have a say in what the foundation does, right? Ultimately, if you turn around when we put this proposal forward and vote against, the foundation cannot do much of what it can do. We will still run project marketing. We'll still try and help different ecosystem entities. We'll try and do various like internal tasks when it comes to technical scoping and the key work that Rick does with that. But there's not a huge amount that we can do without additional funding. That's why we're putting this forward. And so if the community turns around and says no, then ultimately we cannot do it, and we don't get that validation, which is why we've gone through this whole process. Now, there is an argument for down the line where we look at also different governance mechanisms of the foundation itself. Now, this is a really interesting space, and one that we chose Cayman because of it as well, where there can be a higher degree of accountability. We are aligned to be looking into this in the future. However, we have said to ourselves that we will not start there. Why? Because change takes time, and we want at least a year and a half to be able to deliver on a mission that otherwise we won't be able to deliver. So, there's also thinking about democracies and 4 years. The reason for that is that there is a length of time where we can actually deliver on this vision. And then at every stage, we will be accountable to the community through this on-chain treasury proposal process. So we're not worried. This is a classic moment of accountability. This is the moment of accountability that we're currently facing, and we are working tirelessly to get feedback and to try and align ourselves with the ecosystem.
And just a note from me, in terms of just to add to plus one what Rich is saying, you guys are the community. Ultimately, this is on-chain proposal, and you can vote on it, right? I don't think anyone's being strong-armed here into anything, but the power that you guys hold and the beauty of Web3 and the beauty of the on-chain treasury, which Doug, you created, is that you guys can decide, what does accountability look like for you? What do you want to see foundation being accountable to if you approve these funds? So at a certain point, it's that the burden of what you guys want to see is this moment, and I think we're doing it right. I think all this conversation is in spirit of that. Is what do you want to see? Maybe it's maybe a recommendation here that I'm hearing. Just extrapolating a bit, is maybe there needs to be some community members who can vote on the RFPs alongside foundation. There's a bunch of things that you guys can suggest, and I'm pretty sure Rich is all ears in terms of having a conversation about what that can look like. So my advice here would be, well, what do you want to see, and what things are perturbing you. I mean, Pablo, I think you articulated them well, and I think other people in chat have articulated them well as too. So now I think it's part of the process where we say, okay, here's what the feedback is. I know Rich is already going to take a lot of this back and do some thinking. But I think what is important here is, as stakeholders, as voting members, put forward what you think would be best, and then there's a negotiation and a conversation that happens as a result of that. And that was, why GovWorks set up this process to begin with, and why we have the pre-proposals for this exact moment, to have the people who are using on-chain treasury funds to be accountable to the community.
Yeah, just one last thing, and then I shut up. We should note that the foundation received an undisclosed amount of LPT that apparently is going to stake and recurringly sell inflation profits to finance itself. But I mean, given how large that stake of LPT is, that could potentially heavily influence SPE results. Since we don't know how much they hold, it's hard to imagine if that can happen or not, but something to consider in this great system.
And are you asking, Pablo, would you like that to be something that is transparently said? I think we've touched on it already in the call, but yeah, go ahead.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Yeah, so, that's an ask. So, we'll, Rich, I think we'll take that into consideration. I think we've mentioned it a bit already, but I'm not sure, Rich, if you want to expand on that point.
Sorry, I didn't actually get what the question was exactly. Can you rephrase, Pablo?
Go ahead, Pablo. Yeah.
How much LPT are you sitting on, and is that amount non-negligible? Is that amount large enough to influence SPE results? Voting results.
Influence SPE results, i.e., what's as in, will we vote on proposals? Is this what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, great. We, at this point, this hasn't actually been discussed internally. However,
Sorry.
No, keep going, Rich. You have the floor.
Thank you. However, what I will say is we certainly won't be voting on our own proposal. And to be honest, we will almost certainly likely follow what the grants node was, which was we do not vote on proposals unless we deem it to be a specific attack on the on-chain treasury. We don't foresee voting on proposals.
On that front, there's another question from Chuck in chat. Isn't this the node that is/will be controlled by LF, and it's the grant
node? The exact detail we won't go into just because we can't for legal reasons. However, what I can say is that it will be very similar to that node. Yes.
All right. Any other questions? I know this was a long conversation so far, and we have some other topics, but any other kind of last thoughts, questions, comments, feelings before we move on? And of course, open conversation. The forum's open. You can message in governance channel. There's plenty of venues to continue the conversation if you have more thoughts. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rich and Doug, and everybody for stepping up, having the hard conversation, and doing it with grace. I appreciate everybody.
Thanks, Hank. Do you mind if I just wrap up very quickly?
Yeah, sorry, feel free to wrap up.
Yeah, a big thank you to everyone participating. I know this does affect a lot of the ecosystem, and like I said, we've really pulled some all-nighters to try and get this to where we are now. We really appreciate the feedback. We're going to try and get something back to the community. We're going to try and get something back to the community in the next couple of days. We've given ourselves a deadline, hopefully for Thursday. my request is to everyone here on this call is we really want to get moving, right? The foundation has been in strategy mode for a long time. And as much as we love it and as much as it's been great working with the advisory board process, we're really hungry to get moving on a number of these core initiatives, and we can't we can't move forward on a lot of them without the funding. So what I would request is when we do put something forward on Wednesday, Thursday, please do make some time and give comment and feedback. And also, what we're asking for is signal, right? We don't want to waste time putting a proposal that people are not going to vote for. It wastes everyone's time, right? So we're going to have another crack at the pre-proposal, and we'll get that to you. Please give a rough idea of your support for it or not. Obviously, if you feel comfortable, but we really want to make sure that we get it right first time, and your feedback is critical for that. So thanks everyone who's taken part in the discussion this morning, today. It's been awesome to have it, and like I said, it's a really good accountability mechanism for some of it makes sure we're going down the right path from a foundation perspective. So really appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rich, and thank you everyone for showing up and speaking their mind. Um, and yeah, Hunter just posted definition SPE, and that is another great point, Hunter, about the definition of the SP and the spirit of that, and how we have not fully followed it. And I would say the transformation SP is actually the spirit of the LIP 90 specific SP definition. So plus one, Hunter. All right, we're gonna move on. I know that we just want to close it. We've been talking for almost an hour on this one topic, so close for today. Rich will be working with foundation team to put something else together in response to all the comments. So give him some time to do that, and then of course, if there's any continued conversation that needs to happen, governance, jump in there and chat it up. All right, so we next have Define, unless we need a breath for a second, get some water. But if not, Define, take it away with the Embodied Network. I'm excited to hear about the progress you guys make. Hello, Define? Cannot hear you on my end.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? Okay. Hello, guys. Congratulations, Rich, for the proposal. I'm sure it's on the right track, and I'm sure the ecosystem is broadly supportive of what you're trying to accomplish. I have actually met you and Ben and everyone on the foundation team. I do believe that you're truly capable individuals with true vision for the network, and that you actually try to do something in the network. Um, and so, guys, I would like to give you some updates for the Embodied network. As you know, we formally separated from the agent SP because of legal reasons and liability issues. We couldn't run the incentives program, which most of you know that we ran the incentives program and then we stopped it. And the reason we stopped it was because we couldn't figure out liability. But after the separation, we are able to continue that program once the unstaking of the funds that Phoenix and Titan have publicly disclosed exactly how many funds are going to be allocated to the new entity, and all the remaining funds, the incentives are about to continue. And we will also be launching a new incentives program, which will be perpetual, to make sure that the pipeline remains operational for as long as possible and time allows, and to make sure that the Embodied network is a success. How that will work is that the Embodied network, which I will post on the chat, the Embodied node, um, we will create some infrastructure where the inflation will go to will go to a blockchain account, which will be um, controlled by two signatures from me and then, and we're looking to adding a third or fourth signature from the foundation or the ink, uh, and really balancing this out. And an amount will go back to the node to reduce to increase the inflation for the next iteration, and another amount will go directly to and automatically each day towards the gateway that powers the incentives, making sure that it runs um, in perpetuity. Uh, and we might ask another proposal specifically for delegating more LPT towards that node. Before we're doing that, we want the full program to run, the first program to finish, and the second test program to run at least for 1 or 2 months, and see that this operation is going forward, and also of course figuring all the legal for that and making sure that it runs without any kind of interruptions. Okay, so these are the updates regarding the incentives, what happened on the Embody network. For those that missed the previous Wednesday's fireside or are not familiar with the Embody network, the Embody network is a network within the Livepeer network, which allows the autonomous embodied economic agents to run. And orchestrators can be participant to that network. And once they register and participate, they basically receive the incentive payments for the work they're contributing into the network. And we plan this to be a full token network. We have a very ambitious uh, testnet launch on Arbitrum testnet till October, and we want to actually have this as a full Arbitrum-based token network by the first quarter of 2026. And we will look towards on how to do that also in close communications with REITs to mimic their foundation legal setup and be ready on day one to go both with the token network, the foundation, and the exchange listing. And we also cannot do any kind of promises, obviously, but there are many talks about how to introduce the token airdrops for orchestrators. So as you can understand, the synergy between the projects creates value for orchestrators. Now, today we got our first orchestrator into the Embody network. So thank you very much, Frank. I don't know if you're on the audience right now, but thank you for becoming the first orchestrator. We're running on a Windows version because the Unreal Engine game for months was built on Windows, and we need to run that on host outside of the Docker containers. But we are developing the Linux version, and we hope that this will be available next week, where the beta launch uh, will start, and every single orchestrator in the network will be invited to join the pipeline. In case that we do not have enough orchestrators to do the 100 LPT per week per orchestrator, we will allow orchestrators to launch multiple agents, basically. So one orchestrator could launch 2 or 3 or even 5 agents, depending on their GPU capacity, and this, of course, will increase their incentives by the adequate amount. Um, so these are the updates. We are also creating an application to increase our ability to do LLM engineering and speed up our work. This is based on Archon, and we will have that open source, I think, this week. So we're looking into getting gains into the tech operations and the DevOps operations just from that, because we spend a lot of time together with then just making sure that the code works and the infrastructure, the network, everything is fine. So that leaves very few windows for development, for DevOps and BizOps, sorry. Um, so those are the updates I have posted. All the all the URLs. You can give feedback. You can, if you want, you can participate in the alpha. There are some orchestrators that still want to do the Windows the Windows version. Even if we switch to the Linux version in a few days, this provides very needed feedback for us on how it operates on a computer. So if you want to join, you are more than welcome to do. When we discussed with the agent SP, they informed that their unstaking should be ready in about 3 or 4 days. So this is the timeline for restarting the existing incentives program. And I want to make a last comment on the agent SP phase 2 proposal. That proposal has been accomplished in a degree, but there are one major pain point which hasn't been accomplished, and this is the PNL, the PNL tracking. So basically, going on the putting out the agents in environments where they can get viewers and people to interact with, and then gathering data about how much value, economic value they can create, and just iterating over and over and becoming better. This hasn't been accomplished because the view we had on how to build the application changed, and there were those slow pipeline rollouts due to the legal. But we plan to finish this, although there's, I think, 1.5 months remaining for that to be completed. And the way in which we plan to finish this is through the embodied network and the pipelines. Because how the embodied network works, it has a central manager where the orchestrators connect. The central manager can then send the autonomous prompt instructions if we want the agent to remain autonomous for a long period of time, send a stop signal or start signal, etc., or even control the VTuber directly. So this allows us to control the VTubers, and basically, if we push them towards different streaming platforms and different streaming audiences, we can still complete the PNL. So by running 10 agents concurrently from a central manager, we can aggregate very fast the PNL data we need. So I'm very excited on that, and for putting this on any upcoming proposal. So for full transparency, the only proposals which I think we'll do as a separate entity, there are two proposals. One proposal for the perpetual incentives node, one all the legal are set up and this is running with full transparency. And the second one is to get the ability to deliver the actual network on the Arbitrum together with the foundation. And after that, Embody is considered a separate project within the Livepeer ecosystem, but a separate token project, and it is assumed that it will not need any additional funding.
Amazing. Any questions for DeFi? And again, congrats on the split. It's exciting stuff.
Thank you, and
All right, we'll keep it moving. Sorry to push us along. I just want to time box the water cooler at an hour 30, and we're quickly approaching, so we'll try to get through the rest of the topics. But if we miss someone, I'll just move it over to next week. Okay, now we're over to Titan about the Linux Docker hosting and the Sarah use case. Take it away, Titan.
GM. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so my topic, real quick, is around the Unreal Engine game engine that was built. So obviously, as Define mentioned, he's just using the Windows version for his incentivizing and getting his agent going. We are going to be working on getting that ported over to a Linux version. So try and get it to work headlessly inside of a Docker container so that we can kind of scale up and down. And yeah, so the idea behind this is, Sarah is a live agent. She's streaming through Unreal Engine and through Livepeer. People can interact with her. We keep upgrading her as Dane keeps creating more and more utility behind the avatar, right? So Sarah can now dance to music now and make up to 100 gestures, or all these types of upgrades that are happening. And so now our next goal is to get Sarah into a container, um, and host it on the Livepeer network. And then as a use case for expanding out more orchestrators, what we'll be doing is I'll be adding a feature onto Sarah's game, which is like a changing room. So you can go in and change the look of Sarah, right? You can make her head really big, or change her outfit, or change the size of her feet, and or whatever you want. And the idea would be, you go into a change room and you can modify her, and you can pay Sarah tokens, and that will submit to the actual live feed, which is the feed that Sarah is streaming to everyone in the world. The way we do this, though, is right now Sarah is one feed. It's one RTMP input feed. If we want her to be in a change room, um, if you were to be modifying her, it would be streaming out to everyone else as well. So what we're going to do is the change room is actually going to be a brand new instance of the game engine with Sarah put there. And what will happen is, so when someone enters the change room, it will ask an orchestrator to spin up the Unreal Game Engine and stream that directly to them. So they have a one-on-one visual representation of them interacting with the game, and they can make all their submissions. And if they decide to pay for the upgrade, I can gather the data points that they wanted to adjust and push it over to the Sarah live feed. So this is really useful because it allows us to scale up and down the amount of the instances of Sarah based on how many people want to interact with her individually. And that's really interesting because that scaling happens through the Livepeer network, right? So you have many orchestrators handling the game, and it'll scale up and down depending on the amount of individuals wanting to interact with her. So yeah, so that's kind of the first version of this, which is let's get Sarah hosted on Livepeer, and then let's get her, um, scalability, robustness, kind of like built into the network, so that not only do orchestrators have the opportunity of hosting this, and we can actually scale or test the scalability of the network. It's a pretty low hanging fruit in terms of, like, if it doesn't work, somebody, it's just errors loading up their change room, right? This is like not a big critical feature, but it can be one where, if people want to play around or experiment, you know, the 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 orchestrators now have an opportunity to spin that up and have it streaming out, and we can start to debug and test what it looks like to host maybe 100 or 1,000, instances of this game engine, where the developers obviously like push through what they want to have the agents see or do, right? So once we kind of get the game engine inside of a container and the endpoints are available for developers to poke at, and we know that it can scale up and down on the network reliably, we'll put out our documentation, and that way developers can dig right into to spinning up their own version of the game engine, and start customizing and building their app around a live streaming feature of their autonomous agent, if you will. It can be used for agents, but it really is what we're building with the Sarah pipeline is there's no brains. in Sarah's pipeline. It's what I think Dane mentioned. It's BYOB, bring your own brains. So the Sarah engine, or no, it's not the Sarah engine. I believe we're calling it the Embody engine. It only is listening for post requests for data on what it should do. Otherwise, it's just streaming out 60 frames per second. What the agent is doing and acting, and the developer gets to bring their own brains on how they should say things, why should they do them, the expressions they should bring. We can give a template like SDKs on what we would recommend. Kind of looks good, but yeah, that's kind of the direction we're going right now. So we're getting Sarah onto the network. We're going to spin up multiple Sarahs in different change rooms so that orchestrators can start spinning up those and testing out the reliability. And then we'll put out documentation on how other people can build using the same container. So yeah, that's kind of just an update on what I'm going to be working on for the next few weeks here.
Amazing. And Titan, feel free to, I would love to have you on the fireside to get that out there on socials. But no pressure if you want to. I'll reach out to you separately about that maybe next week as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. And a couple more updates. So the Unreal Game Engine that hosts these avatars, it looks like a 2080 or higher is what's recommended. I tried spinning it up on a 1070. But the 10 series cards, I don't believe have the right shaders or the latest tech for Unreal Engine 5.5. So we're looking at the 20 series cards and newer. And it looks like I got to spin up on a 4060. So it looks like 8 gigs of RAM is going to be enough for a single game engine to run quite smoothly. So it's kind of nice because we can start targeting the smaller cards, just slightly a newer generation. So 20 series, I think the minimum would be like a 2060 or 2070 or whatever those older cards were. But it seems like that is the going to be the minimum for this in its current benchmarking for what we've been doing. So yeah, just a quick update there, and yeah.
Amazing. Any comments or questions for Titan? All right.
Jason says, looks like my older cards might get some work.
Woo!
I mean, that would be great. I haven't quite figured out the price point for something like this. I know personally for Sarah, like I would spend, like I don't know what I kind of would put out there for to run one of these. Maybe like $30 to $50 per month worth of inference for hosting one of these game engines. It does get quite warm, like the GPU's it's not hot, but it's running at like 80% capacity, so it's using all the RAM, all the shaders, all the things you would expect from a high-end game is what this is running. So it's really useful for those independent gaming computers that are already optimized for video games. So I'm hoping that we can target those mid-range gaming graphic cards as kind of the benchmark, and then that becomes pretty cost effective for us to scale up and down this instance of this game engine. And then giving agents a live feed, a 24-hour consistent live feed, I think is a very unique approach that we have. Many agents right now are doing generative video, but it's very sporadic. It's usually just it's a posted, a video that's compiled. It takes a minute or two to compile, 5 seconds of video, and then it'll get posted on Twitter or X, and there's your generative piece. But to be streaming a constant, real time 60 frames per second feed, RTMP feed to the world, that is a unique kind of thing that we can offer to developers. And then in doing so, you can have that real time response of the agent thinks and it speaks to you. So it can be real time, it can be fast, it can be 24 hours, and it can be very cost effective for developers that want to build in. And then on top of that, we can look at the Unreal Engine marketplace to see if maybe there's an opportunity to use our headless streaming um, network of Livepeer to the Unreal Engine marketplace, because there's lots of developers in the Unreal marketplace. It's very, very large and robust, but there might be an opportunity to market a plugin that says, hey, listen, take your game you've built or these assets you've built that you have your career built off of, and let's stream them to the world through a live interface. And that live interface is a live feed, an RTMP feed to the world where people can interact and see. And one of the best things that we're creating is this headless version of this. So it can be spun up headlessly, scalable, and through the Livepeer network. And so people can come in and display their work, build apps or plugins that work through the Livepeer network. And it can get super creative if we target the Unreal marketplace. So I haven't dived into that more. We'll do some more research, but the key right now is just getting headless streaming of the Unreal Engine live in a container and hosted on Livepeer. So working with Brad and the AISPE for that, bringing that technicality to life, and then how the streaming payments work with it, and all this. So yeah, pretty exciting, pretty fun.
Thank you, Titan. Before we head to Doug, I just wanted to mention Lizar. Sarah Winner can't come up today, but he was asking for some more feedback on his delegation app. So feel free to drop any comments in that forum. I'm not sure what your next steps are, Winner, for Lysar, but excited to see the progress you've made there. But please drop that in the comments. All right, and Doug, you are up next.
Cool, thanks. I just wanted to quickly highlight some things that shipped the end of last week out of Livepeer Inc. and talk about why they will hopefully matter to and drive traffic to the network. So the Inc. team shipped 3 pretty exciting things, or actually one of them was built by a third-party builder. First was the first ever hosted API for a model called Stream Diffusion, which is a really popular model in the interactive real-time AI space. So there is now a API service where anyone can build on and use Stream Diffusion remotely. And that's exciting. It requires a lot of GPU compute and can allow you to modify live video creatively. And there was one very early builder and design partnership who used that API straight off the bat. A leading developer in the touch designer ecosystem, which is a really popular tool for creative technologists creating interactive experiences. And they actually use the API to build a plugin for touch designer where a lot of stream diffusion, but the only touch designer users who can use it have to have a very powerful local GPU. And there are many thousands of users who don't have powerful local GPUs or out of luck until now, because now they can use that plugin to use hosted stream diffusion on the Livepeer network. And so that was also shipped last Thursday. That's exciting. A lot of users have signed up for access to that plugin. And there's a wait list of users waiting to use the API that we released in beta as well. The thing that shipped, as Anne already mentioned, was the Daydream 2.0 playground. So you can actually go to daydream.live and play with Stream Diffusion, and you can use your webcam, you can use input shape, you can use a canvas and draw. You can actually use audio as an input, which has been really popular and fun. And you can actually turn all the bells and whistles and experiment with using Stream Diffusion to create awesome creative outputs. And that's been really inspiring for creators, where many people have played around with it for hours on end. And the belief there is, hey, that's using the network under the hood, but it's actually inspiring creative technologists and developers to build directly on the API. So Really exciting next iteration, trying to be a leading real-time AI platform and infrastructure and community. Worth noting, the reason that there is a waitlist has to do with managing capacity. We don't have enough GPUs on the network running these models yet in order to just open this up infinitely. And we have a far longer waitlist than the capacity could handle. And I know that's a little bit of a um, sort of surprising because at the same time, a lot of the orchestrators here feel like, hey, their GPUs are underutilized. They want to compete for jobs and do the work. So that's good news. I know that there's efforts to onboard all of our orchestrators to these models and make sure they're running the right GPUs performantly. And there's going to be a lot of work in the coming days and weeks to get these jobs live and scaling on the network so we can open up the waitlist more broadly. And a lot of iteration to do until there's total fit and scaled apps using this, but promising early signals via the initial interest in the 4 days since launch that we're on a strong track here. So if you want to learn more, jump into the Daydream server, try out the playground, and exciting things to come. Vera said 4090, 5090 is still the min requirement, right? I believe that's the target. I don't know for sure that's the absolute minimum, but it's definitely the most common setup and easiest thing to deploy.
Amazing. Thank you, Doug. And I dropped the playground and the Discord in chat. All right. I just want to wrap up by saying that, you know, I appreciate everyone's passion and I appreciate everyone continuing to show up with like a very entrepreneurial spirit. Um, Making Web3 significant is hard. It's an uphill battle, and you guys continue to show up day in day um, to make that happen. To see the dream, whether it be Livepeer or Web3 in general, to see it happen. So I appreciate the conviction. I appreciate the passion. I appreciate the entrepreneurial spirit that everyone shows up with. I mean, I think it's evident in these water coolers how much you guys are trying and how passionate you are about pushing forward the technology. So I just want to give appreciation to everybody and give yourself a pat on the back. Throughout the process, while challenging, it's always important to congratulate the progress we have made, even though there's always more work to be done. All right. Well, that is it for Watercooler. Check out Fireside. It's going to just be, I think, Foundation this week. Next week we'll have more guests, but I think people have really been heads down working. So next week I'll ask some folks to jump back on there and give the community and the larger audience some updates on what you guys have been doing. All right. Take care, everyone, and have a good rest of the day.